Hello, Genesis chapter 6. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all that they chose. And Jehovah said, My spirit shall not strive with man for ever, for that he also is flesh, yet shall his days be 120 years. The Nephil were in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same were the mighty men that were of old, the men of renown. And Jehovah saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Jehovah that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. Jehovah said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the ground, both man and beast, and creeping things, and birds of the heavens, for it repented me that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of Jehovah. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, and a perfect in his generation. Noah walked with God, and Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupted before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupted, for all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without pitch. And this is how thou shalt make it. The length of the ark 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. A light shalt thou make to the ark, and to a cubit shalt thou finish it upward. And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. And behold, I do bring the flood of water upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. From under heaven, everything that is in the earth shall die. But I establish my covenant with thee, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives, with 3. And of every living thing of all, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of the birds after their kind, and of the cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the ground after its kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. And take thou unto thee of all food, and is eaten, and gathered it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah, accordingly to all that God commanded him, so did he. Genesis 6 is the Bible first full-scale picture of humanity becoming anti-creations, and God responding with holy judgment and covenant mercy. It's not mainly a kid's story about animals. It's a theological diagnosis of a world that has become unfit for life with God. Below is what God is communicating through the chapters in a PhD pastor registered. Son of God, daughters of men, the breakdown of God's intended boundaries. Chapter 6, verse 1 through 4. What's happening in the text? The sons of God saw the daughters of men, took them wives of all that they chose. The emphasis is not romance, it's grasping. The face took of all they chose echoes the logic of Eden. I see, I desire, I take. It singles power, disorder, desire, and boundary violations. The 3 main scholarly readings you'll hear these in serious theology. Heavenly being views sons of God equals divine/heavenly beings. Daughters of men equals human woman. The offsprings are linked to the Nephilims. This reading fits how sons of God is used in place like Job as heavenly beings, and it fits ancient Jewish interpretations, Second Temple era. Scythal view, son of gods equals godly line of Seth, daughters of men equals line of Cain. The sin is intermarriage that dissolves covenant identities. Royal slash tyrant views, sons of gods equals ancient kings slash rulers who claim divine statues and practice polygamy. Forces taking the sin is predatory power. What matters most, regardless of which view you take, Genesis is showing an escalation. Human society is now so disordered that even foundational boundaries, marriage, sexual power are being violated, producing a world of mighty men, men of renown, a culture that celebrates strength, fame, and domination. Nephilim, mighty men, men of renown. The text is not trying to satisfy modern curiosity as much as it is making a moral point. The world is filling with larger-than-life violence, heroes in human eyes, but not righteous in God's eyes. What God is saying, when desire and power detach from God, greatness becomes monstrous, and society begins to idolize domation. My spirit shall now strive. He is flesh. 120 years equals divine patience with an expiration date. Chapter 6, verse 3. My spirit shall not strive with man for forever. His days shall be 120 years. Two major interpretations. A countdown to judgment. God grants 120 years before the flood comes, a period of mercy and warning, a limit on human lifespan. God decrees a general reduction in longevity going forward. Either way, the theology is similar. God, life-giving, preserves, will not be indefinite, resisted. What God is saying, I am patient, but I am not permissive. There is a moral horizon to history. The darkness diagnosis in Genesis so far. Totalizing evil. Every imagination, only evil continually. This is Scripture's most sweeping description of sin saturation. Not only action, but the inner factory of desire and thought. Not occasionally, but continually. What God is saying, the problem is not a few bad choices. It's a corrupted heart that keeps generating corruption. It repented. It grieved him at his heart. God is not cold. God is personally opposed to evil. It repented Jehovah. It grieved him at his heart. This is not mean God made a mistake like an uninformed human. This is what theologians call anthropopathic language. God speaks in human terms to reveal his real posture. Grieves mean God is not detached. God's judgment is not temper. It's the necessary action of a holy God against a world that has become a violence machine. What God is saying, your evil is no big deal. It wounds creations and offends holiness, and it breaks God's heart. The flood is a recreation, reversing Genesis 1, because the world has reversed God. Chapter 6, verse 7, chapter 6, verse 17. God will destroy. The text repeats, corrupt/destroy. Language, the imagery of flood water is not random. It's Genesis 1 running backwards. In creation, God separated waters to form habitable spaces. In the flood, the water returns to undo a world that has become uninhabitable morally. What God is saying, when humanity turns creation into chaos through violence, judgment can look like returning the world to chaos, so God begins again. The hinge of hope. But Noah found favor. Chapter 6, verse 8. But Noah found favor. This is pure grace language. Favor is not wages, it's gift. Then Noah was righteous, blameless in his generations, walked with God. Chapter 6, verse 9. Blameless does not mean sinless. It means whole, integrated, faithful, a man not divided between God and corruption, in contrast to a world whose way is corrupted. What God is saying, even in a collapsing world, I can preserve a faithful remnant, and I delight to do it. The world public sin named corruption and violence. The chapter 6 verse 11 through verse 13, the earth was corrupted, filled with violence. Two key themes: corrupt equals ruined, spoiled, morally decayed. Violence equals not only individual assaults, but a whole social order built on exploitation. This matters. The flood is not about God being annoyed. It's about a world where life is being devoured by humans. What God is saying, I see systemic violence. I would not call it normal. I will end it. Ark plus covenant judgment is not God's last word. Preservation is. Chapter 6, verse 14 through 22. The ark. The ark is not just a boat. It's a mobile sanctuary of life, a contained new creation carried through judgment. God gives precise instruction because salvation here is not vague. Spiritually, it's concrete obedience. The covenant's first time the word appears in the Bible. I will establish my covenant with thee. This is massive in the midst of global judgment. God blinds himself to a promise. Covenant means God will preserve a people through whom the world can be renewed on the basis of God's commitment. What God is saying, I judge the world truly, but I save by covenant mercy. I am committed to life and to a future. Noah's obedience, thus did Noah, according to all that God commanded him. In a chapter about human autonomy and violence, Noah embodies the opposite: trust, obedience, and faithful endurance. What God is saying, salvation is answered through trusting obedience, not by negotiating terms with God, but by receiving his way. The core message of Genesis 6 in one sentence: when humanity turns creation into continual evil and violence, God grieves in judgment and judges, not as rage, but as holy opposition to corruption. Yet he preserves life through covenant grace, calling a faithful man to obedient trust as the seed of a new, renewed world. Genesis chapter 6. Thank you very much.